Hey guys, I haven't don't mind my hair. I've been out in the wind. I've been kind of putting it off because I've been hoping the basswood bowl would split more, and it has a little bit, but not super crazy. But I want to show you just kind of the progress I've made on this so far. So I'm gonna get you guys spun around here. Give me just a second. All right, guys. So I got you spun around here. Sorry, I've got my video all sorts of messed up here, I think, but trying to get you guys in here for like the best view I can anyway, without giving myself the potential of slicing the crap out of myself. All right, so here's the pith, and up here's the pith. So you can see they're not centered real well, and that's fine. Just know you don't want your pith being down here at the bottom very often, because it does create cracks. But as I get this piece sanded, you'll see better. There's a knot right off the pith that goes that way, and there's another small knot right here off the pith, and it makes this corner super hard to cut. And when you get into stuff like that, you really do want to just slow right down, take tiny thin cuts. Every chisel, every carving knife I have ever had will make a thin cut better than a deep cut. And you still can use a large gouge when you're doing this. I've got, these are both smaller gouges. This is a bigger gouge, obviously. You still can use a bigger gouge, but you've got to take that time to practice, not using the full cutting edge of a gouge. It's real easy to just want to bury a bigger gouge in there. I think if you tell yourself, hey, I got to go small here, if you use a smaller gouge, you're less likely to want to take those big chips. Because what will typically happen where you're cutting bigger and bigger surface area, when that grain switches, you're going to either jump out of it and like dive bomb down here and blow through the bottom of this, or you're going to really struggle, really fatigue your arms out, and not get good progress. But when you're working along that knot, you can just kind of rock your gouge back and forth. And this is it's not necessarily something I would try to use a hook knife or a spoon knife on, just because of the depth of where you're at down in here. Try to get a spoon knife, a hook knife down into this corner and out. You're just asking to lose control of your work. And like I said, it is a whole lot better to just work really thin, really tiny slices out of here. It is a whole lot more repeatable, and if you can repeat it, you will save yourself a whole lot of finishing work. But I think that knot's finally getting a little more visible there. And again, this is just a short video. I just wanted to explain, sometimes you can get more work done with a smaller chisel because you're not going to get fatigued as fast. you're not going to gouge stuff out as deep. And it does leave a relatively nice surface. There's one. And that just shows, like I said, where that knot is. I cut in this way and it stopped. The grain changed direction. It didn't want to cut anymore. So I literally just scooped the chisel just like you're scooping out ice cream and cut it off there. And then when I get the bowl repositioned, I can come in and nip these pieces this direction to finish out that bevel. But if you're having a hard time getting good control with your gouge, try polishing it up on a strop. It might just be a little rough. Your edge might be slightly curved over. If you know your gouge is really good and sharp and it's still, you know, kind of hesitating or biting in on you, try using a slightly smaller one, or sometimes even go to using a straight gouge instead of a curved gouge. Because what this does is it allows you to push just nice straight pressure. And then when you're ready to come up out of that cut, all you got to do is just drop that handle. It's not going to continue to cut like the spoon or bowl gouges do. Because you got to remember, these cut that radius. So these will keep cutting as you get down into that corner. Whereas with this, as soon as you get up to where you want to stop, you just pick it up. And it will cut off right there just about perfectly. It will leave a sharp edge. You will have to go back through and dress that edge up with a bowl gouge or a curved gouge. But sometimes having a straight tool to work these corners with can give you an edge, but mostly when you're working around knots or your pith, where the direction of the grain is changing a lot, just because you can change your direction really quickly with this and not be stuck in the middle of a shaving somewhere. In reality, there probably is no right or wrong answer, especially it comes down to what you're comfortable with. And you'll learn species of woods, which ones are more accepting of taking bigger cuts through knots, which ones are not. Basswood is very forgiving. It carves, it almost carves itself in that essence. But where basswood can be difficult is it is very easy to get, I call it like just brain fog. I can sit here and just keep listening to the sound of my chisel cutting through that grain structure, and next thing you know, I've literally carved right through the bottom of my project. And I had to stop myself here. You can see I got this wall quite thin, and I don't typically like doing that until I get the project completely done, because it's quite easy if I got to go back through and touch up on something to crack that edge. But hopefully the tips help. Hopefully you enjoy the videos. Here shortly, if all goes right, I will have a new tool to add to the shop to help get a few more things going. I finished up Shutter Homestead, got that all cleaned up today, and I'll be posting that here in a bit as well. if I haven't posted it by the time this goes up. But, and again, I get back probably not tonight, probably tomorrow. I've got to do some work on one of our properties down here tomorrow, and that will hopefully hopefully be just a one-day job, but it's funny when you work for yourself. Everybody always says, you know, when they retire, they don't know how they had time to work. Boy, it's 100% true. Since I have went to working for myself, I end up with more work than I have ever had when I had a job. And I don't know if that's people are like, oh, you know, he's not doing anything. He can take the day off. But in that essence, I thoroughly enjoy what I get to do. I love building stuff, rather that be, you know, these carved crafts of mine, or if it's working on old barns or old guns. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I was talking to a buddy of mine. There's a chance I'll even be working on a couple old motors and stuff for him here shortly too. And I don't know. I have never been, I will not say like, my dad is an awesome mechanic, especially if you can get into your old carbureted stuff. He's an absolute whiz. He's a really good engineer when it comes to modifying stuff to fit the farm. And in an essence, I will say that is probably where my busy hand syndrome comes from. But it's as outdated as we become on engines, it can be kind of nice, because you know, these guys that are used to using computer systems to tell you what's wrong with an engine don't know what to do when there's no plug and play a lot of times. And I don't know what to do when I have to talk to a computer to figure out what's going on. But haven't been watching the news or anything much lately, so definitely don't have any gripes or groans there. But that is probably also why I am relatively stress-free and getting lots of work done, because I don't have to fret about the crooks in DC messing with me. But I hope you guys enjoy the videos. Like I said, that's get this popped off from here. And like I said, that was just there to help support this. And like I said, the bowl's pretty much all done, minus getting this bottom flattened out. We're going to go through and fix this crack here real shortly. I still haven't made up my mind yet on how I'm going to fix this. If I'm just going to glue it or if I'm going to put some pigment in there. But like I said, we're getting ready to get started getting this bottom flattened out. And then we'll go from there. I did leave this side quite a bit thicker. And that is mostly because of this knot and the pith being right there. I'll show you how to do a sanded in finish with glue on the outside of this because of some of the cracks and checks. Also, the glue I have is a waterproof, non-toxic glue. So it will make the bowl able to have moisture put in it when it's all said and done. And that's about all I got. Hope you guys enjoy the videos. I hope this does kind of help you guys out with your carving journeys. And I'm looking at getting some more of my chisels out. What I have out now is what I use for the most part, just because when you buy chisel kits, a lot of the tools have very specific jobs that they're good for. And most of these, I don't want to say are generic, but these can be used for a fairly wide facet of things. So this is what I use more often than not for just about everything. Even for flattening these bottoms out, I can use a spoon or a bowl gouge, even with its radiuses in it, and it just, I mean, it works just fine. I've seen guys take these small Japanese planes and work sections down. I don't mess with that. But all right. Well, hope you guys have a great day. I do hope you guys are enjoying the videos. I haven't posted a bunch of them lately, just because, like I said, I've been busy with work. But we'll get back to this. I'd really like to get this done and figure out who is going to get this piece when it's all said and done. But y'all have a great day. And again, get out in your shop, get your hands dirty, get doing something with these, and let your brain rest for a little bit. Have a good one.